funded from the Tax Capital Reserve. This program is to be detailed in the 2024 business plan and budget. B part, that city staff identify and incorporate a feature or features to recognize the RCAF's 100th anniversary into a portion of the Military Heritage Park. And C, that staff in the Development Services and Operations departments work with the Rotary Club of Barrie-Huronia to develop a suitable plan and location for the planting of native eastern redbud trees along the south shore of Kempenfelt Bay. And I'm happy to chat about those. These are, and I have to thank my colleagues for this work, because it's not, it doesn't come just from me, but there's been a lot of discussion about this on the way to get here. First of all, in terms of A part, the planting of the trees, I think that, you know, we are in a climate emergency. We are, and planting trees is the simplest and most straightforward and most economical way of doing something in that regard. And not only does it help with urban heating, but it also helps in our natural environment as well. So, and I think planting 1,000 trees in our waterfront area is something that we can easily accomplish. The second one is the RCAF feature. RCAF, the Royal Canadian Air Force, is celebrating their 100th anniversary, and they've come to us to ask if we can plant something that would commemorate that. And I think that our Military Heritage Park is probably a really good place to do that. So we'll have staff, this amendment requests that staff work on that, and let's see where that goes. And a C part, the Rotary Club has come to us and said that they would really like to be involved in planting these eastern redbud trees. And I take it that they're a flowering tree that flowers very early in the spring. So it might be a real asset to our city and draw some people to the waterfront. And so we'd like to have staff work with the Rotary Club to figure that out, how that could be done. So that's the 3 amendments at this point.
Any questions from members on the committee? Mayor Nuttall.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Councillor Rittmer for the 3 motions. I think that it's obviously something that you've cared about for a very long time, but more than that, I think putting a plan behind it and what it's going to look like, and including outside organizations to help us do it, will relieve some of the stresses on our own staff, but also make it a community initiative rather than just a city initiative. And so I want to recognize we have 2 members of the Barrie-Huronia Rotary Club here today. Formerly, I was a member of that Rotary Club, I have to disclose. I think I show up more now than I did when I was a member. But I think it's really important that we do, obviously recognize the RCF's 100th anniversary. It was birthed at Base Borden. It has certainly a major connection to the city of Barrie. And the idea for the RCAF across the country, where they have these recognitions, is that as pilots are able to fly over and past them, they'll see their own emblems from above. And it's a really neat concept. I think it fits really well on our waterfront with the Military Heritage Park, as Councillor Rittmer said. And just want to say thank you for bringing these items forward and doing the work that you've done on them.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, any questions from members of council in attendance? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Hamilton. To you, Councillor Rittmer. So the redbud is a beautiful tree, and one that I know is actively promoted by Nature Barrie as a strong pollinator. But I didn't know how prescriptive that direction would be. I believe forestry and other conversations, not to say that there's anything wrong with the redbud, but might be having more discretion about not doing blanket approaches to the same tree. So we saw an impact with the ash borer beetle around those trees. And so there was some diversification happening. So as long as I think there's a good opportunity to maybe get some feedback in that consultation with forestry around the number of trees and the number of the same species of trees. I just want to make sure that that's still a process piece, because I know it was an informed direction that we took to make sure that if anything did happen to a particular tree species, it wouldn't decimate the whole kind of landscape approach that we're seeing in some of our boulevards.
Yes, absolutely. And Madam Chair, in response to that, that's why the amendment is worded the way it is, that staff work with the Rotary Club to develop a suitable plan. Because you're right, it's certainly, there's a lot of planning that needs to be done and good forest management as well. So I think we can leave it to our staff and the Rotary Club to work out what would be a really suitable arrangement. And if somehow they can't work it out, they can always come back to this committee for discussion.
And one note of follow-up, should it be of interest, Councillor Riepma, I'll frame it as a question, but should an opportunity present it, would you be open to having that group engage with Communities in Bloom? So we're waiting to hear how we did this year. At the last meeting, I believe the minutes will be coming shortly. There is an intention to compete internationally. And as Mayor Nettle has commented about the significance of heritage and the work that's being done through Heritage Committee, but also those legacy pieces, it could actually be a nice promotion point. So the timing of when that happens and any other type of criteria might be good input into how that's designed or informed.
Yeah, I'm seeing a rebuttal here. Would you go ahead?
I don't have a rebuttal. All I want to just highlight is like next year's the 100th anniversary. So that means like if we're planning on consulting till June next year, it doesn't happen next year, we miss the anniversary. So, you know, there are timelines associated with this. So I don't believe that, you know, consultation needs to take the next 8 months or 9 months to do. If everyone's jumping on board, jumping in, then I think the more voices, the better, because there's good, more ideas and all that stuff. But if the plan is like, hey, in January, February, we'll get to it, and we're just going to miss the boat or the plane in this case.
Councillor Riepma, do you want to follow up as well?
Sure, and I think I agree very much with the mayor. But you know what? They're not going to plant them until spring. So Communities in Bloom and all the others, people that might have an interest in it, could certainly improve the project if that's possible. Sure.
Okay, any other questions for members of council in attendance? Okay, so we will then vote on the motion as presented with amendments A, B, and C. Do you want me to read those out? Oh, right. So we'll just vote on the amendments A, B, and C. Do I need to reread them? Nope. Okay, all those in favor? All right, and motion carries. All right, any other amendments for item 5, the deferred motion, the waterfront strategic plan update? Yes, Chair Nettle or Mayor Nettle.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have the following amendment that Mayor Nettle and city staff undertake consultation with representatives of First Nations and Indigenous peoples to designate a portion of land east of the historic Allendale train station to honor Indigenous traditions and provide space for gatherings.
Okay, and can you speak to that?
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Chair again. I think it's really important as we see the work that's being undertaken to the east of Allendale train station, looking at and for archaeological pieces of Indigenous heritage, that we take the opportunity to recognize that we need to honor that in our city. And I can't think of a better place where we have some open ground in the future for that to be able to be done. We obviously have to finish the process that's currently underway. This isn't a today or tomorrow issue, but really outlining and designating something for the years down the road, and ensuring that it doesn't get used in a different fashion by a different council on a different day, I think to me is something I really wanted to, as part of this council's legacy, put in place. And so I know we've got a long way to go, but I do hope that we are able to put this in place and obviously go through the consultation and collaboration with First Nations and Indigenous people, and specifically those who live here in the city of Barrie as well, to be able to make sure that it is the right space, right place, and done the right way.
Thank you for that. I think that's an excellent addition. Any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none. Any questions from members of council in attendance? No. Okay, so we'll move to the vote on the amendment as presented. All those in favor? And it carries. Are there any other amendments in relation to item 5, the Waterfront Strategic Plan update? Seeing none. Oh, I think the other is in relation to item number 7. So I think we can go ahead and vote on the main motion now for item number 5. Main as amended, with amendments A, B, and C as presented by Councillor Riepma, and D as presented by Mayor Nuttall. All those in favor? And it carries. I am seeing that item number 7 is very closely related to item number 5, and given who I'm seeing in the audience as well, I am wondering if perhaps we can move the agenda and save the advisory committee reports to the end and move right to agenda item number 7, which is reports of officers of the corporation, and 7.1, the Sea Cadets facility relocation options and youth sport consultation. Do we need to vote on rejigging the agenda, or can I proceed? Nobody objects? All right, we shall proceed. So 7.1, as I mentioned, is a Sea Cadets facility relocation options and youth sport consultation. There are 4 possible amendments that are listed here, or 4 possible motions. Are there any amendments?
I have amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair. Sea Cadets facility relocate option and youth sport consultation. All reference to South Shore Park be replaced by East of Military Heritage Park. 7.2, that staff in the corporate facility department be directed to develop a plan in consultation with the Sea Cadet and the Navy League of Canada to relocate the Navy Cadet to a new building at East of Military Heritage Park, including a parade ground and multi-use outdoor space, and report back to the Infrastructure and Committee Investment Committee. Also, replaced paragraph 3 of the motion with that a budget for the Sea Cadet relocation plan be added to the 2023 capital plan with 200,000 of the budget approval, 50,000 in 2023 and 150,000 in 2024 to be funded by the tax capital reverse. And I can speak on that.
Okay, thank you. So I'm hearing an amendment to item 7.1, paragraph number 2 be revised and paragraph number 3 be revised. If you want to go ahead and speak to those, that's great.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to see this dialogue is taking place as their current facility is run down and becoming an suitable place for kids and the great programming of the cadets. And that based on the dialogue with them, they have identified the area east of the Military Heritage Park as the most suitable location. As everyone knows, the cadet provides free programming to hundreds of youth every year, age 9 to 18, and that this aligns well with goals to make the waterfront accessible to all people, including our youth, and the goal of the diversity of offering inclusive programming. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Negussie, and I will apologize. I'm still learning my chair duties here, but we didn't put the motion on the floor. So I'm just going to back up a little bit to ask you to put the motion on the floor first, and then you've already spoken to your proposed amendments. But if you can
I'm sorry. I'm going to put it on the floor.
Wonderful. My fault. All right. Any questions from members of the committee in relation to the two proposed revisions to paragraph 2 and 3? Councillor Riepma.
I'm generally in support of them. I just have a question. And it seemed like the staff report said that the Conservation Authority was going to have some heartburn about this location. And I'm just wondering, I'm just a little worried that if we go down this road and the Conservation Authority says no, do we have a backup plan?
I think that's a great question. I can take a stab at, maybe I'll turn it over to, oh, you can go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, thanks so much, Councillor. I think that there was perhaps a little bit of miscommunication on where east of the Military Heritage Park was being discussed. And so if you look at the actual maps with the box study area, I'll call it, it's on the slope going into the water essentially without any separate path coming up. And where I think it was being looked at is east of the walkway for the Heritage Park on the flat space between, there's an entranceway that comes off of Lakeshore Drive. And so I don't think, and I think some of the verbiage is being changed to allow staff to go back to the Conservation Authority on this, but I don't think the Conservation Authority is going to have an issue with the high up back from the water ground. The specific comments were to do with the slope. The second thing I think that you see over there is the lower walkway, if you will, meets that position. And so I think we can reduce some of the costs in terms of how to get down there and all of those things by being near that entranceway coming up. The other piece I think that's that is difficult on the west side is, if you can imagine putting a facility in, but then having parading grounds, to have the full parading grounds that have been discussed with the Cadets and Navy League, we would need quite an area. I don't think it exists on the west side. And then I'm going to opine, if I can, for a second. The other piece for me is, we have the Tiffin boat launch. We have Allendale Station. We've just passed a motion to have Indigenous land or space, or I don't want to say park because I don't think that's the right word. Then you put in parading ground, then you put in Navy, then you put in South Shore. That's really cramped in there. I think it's trying to put a whole lot into a small space. And so if it's possible to kind of spread some of those things out and not make it feel that way, I think that we should pursue it. And the other piece from in consultation with the Navy cadets was, one of the issues they have today is you've got 12-year-olds getting into sailboats, jumping out into motorized boating zones. I'm not sure how that would be different right near the Tiffin boat launch. And so, the safety of those kids, I think, also needs to be considered. I think that's one of the reasons that former Mayor Aspen had identified Tyndale Park in the past. I don't think that's a great location, but it was certainly one of the reasons that we needed to move away from the foot of Bayfield Street.
Madam Chairman, I'm definitely in support of this location. It's just, I'm concerned about the Conservation Authority, that's all. I do agree that this site is much preferred to the other one, particularly because of the congestion problem over there. So yeah, if we can make this happen, that'd be great.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the committee? Deputy.
Thanks, Madam Chair. More of a comment. I'm very glad to see this moving forward. This is something that's probably been on the radar for close to 25 years or even longer. And sometimes it takes a little oomph and you get to where you need to be, and, a little forward thinking. So I'm really glad that this council will do that finally after 30 years. That's my comment.
Great. Thank you for that comment. And maybe I'll add my own comment before I open it up to non-committee members. I would agree with you. I have walked by that building year after year. And actually, it wasn't until the end of the summer, the cadets were hosting a barbecue of sorts and the doors were open. And it was the first time I was actually able to peek in the building. And my heart broke a little bit because I thought, gosh, this is what we've given the youth and the programs that you offer, free programming for kids aged 9 to 18, the hundreds of youth that you are serving. They don't even have washroom facilities in there. So, I mean, I really got on board at that point, and I've always thought, it's a great location, but it just needs to be updated, modernized, and really, I mean, looking at safety as well. I own a boat. We're in and out of there, and you see the sailboats, you see these kids that are just learning, and it's a bit of a nightmare in there. So I am very supportive of a relocation of this facility as well. I think it's time. I think the youth deserve better. I think the programming you offer is, again, it's inclusive, it's diverse, it's so well aligned with our waterfront strategic plan. So I'm very happy to see this moving, and I hope we can overcome whatever obstacles may present themselves in terms of location. But I have confidence in staff that we will figure it out and make it work. And it definitely is time for a move. So I will open it up to any other questions or comments from non-committee members. And seeing none, okay, then I will place the vote on the floor for the two revisions to paragraphs 2 and 3 as presented by Councillor Negussie. I don't think I need to reread them, so we will move to a vote. All those in favor? And it carries. Are there any other amendments to item 7.1 as printed? Seeing another one, Councillor Riepma, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I would just also echo the Deputy Mayor's comments that it's very much high time that we move on with this project. And it's something that we really need to do, and we really owe it to our to the kids too that are learning to sail and do those kind of things. I have one more amendment, and that is an addition to section 7. And it says that staff be authorized to investigate potential lease partners for a new retail, tourism, or service building not to exceed 3 stories to be constructed on the lands currently occupied by the Sea Cadets once the Sea Cadets relocation has been completed, and report back to General Committee prior to the execution of a lease. Happy to talk about that.
Please go ahead.
I'm being very positive about this, that in fact we will be able to relocate the cadets, that they will have a great new building and facility to work in and be in. And this just makes the next logical step is, what are we going to do with the property that it currently sits on? And this amendment simply asks staff to investigate the potential for leasing this property to somebody for some purpose. And the word lease, I think, is the really important one. I don't think we're ever going to, or we should never sell waterfront property that we own. But I think this property has a fair bit of potential for some sort of use. And I'd be very interested in having staff explore that. And hopefully that some of the income from this lease would offset the costs that we will be incurring in terms of moving the cadets as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
Any questions from members of the committee?
Yeah, sorry, I don't have a question, but I do want to say that, first of all, I support this absolutely. Hold on to the land. Don't privatize our waterfront, and at the same time provide opportunities for Barrie's residents or tourism to take place there. That is a wonderful motion. So thank you, Councillor. Secondly, if you can give me a tiny little bit of leeway here, like, look at the amendments that are coming through. First of all, I think it was a balanced plan that staff brought forward on our waterfront. But second of all, I think that the balance of all of the motions this evening is awesome. We've got 1,000 new trees. We're partnering with community organizations to get them done. We're finding a place for young people to be able to both learn and do parading, and we're making sure that we're doing it in an economical way. Like, that's great. That's great work. that's what these committees are set up for, the hard work to be done. And so you moved 4 out of the 7. So thank you, Councillor Ritma, and you worked on 4 out of the 7. So thank you, Councillor Ritma. So I love the motion and I love the work that's being done at committee.
Well, you said it better than I could, so I have nothing else to add. Are there any questions from members of council in attendance? Seeing none, so we will go ahead and move to the vote on the addition of a 5th paragraph as identified by Councillor Ritma. All those in favor? And it carries. Okay, and so now I move back to the main motion to take a vote as amended with the 2 revisions to paragraph 2 and 3 and the addition of paragraph 5. And I'm seeing a hand up.
Thank you, Chair Hamilton. I didn't get caught around a non-member of the committee asking questions, so I think it's still relevant if I may
Absolutely.
ask a question before you go to motion. I don't
Yes.
think it'll compromise the motion, but it was a question I wouldn't mind asking of staff. So when changes like this are proposed around the change to a facility but retaining waterfront property and all the work that has recently been done on a robust plan for the waterfront, how does the process work to make sure that the integrity of all that feedback is, we don't make decisions without going back to staff to say, now that we have this new asset and we could repurpose it, how does this fall in line with other feedback you've recently collected? So I wasn't sure about the process to make sure we don't just make decisions outside of a very recent new plan, knowing that there's potential changes to our waterfront. So I guess through you, Chair Hamilton, perhaps to Mr. Arrhenius Sundaram, is there a process that automatically happens by which when we have decisions at council and they impact master plans, they would automatically go back and give guidance to us before we make any, I'll say, unilateral decisions about what we do at that site? Or do we have to make sure that we're asking staff to be engaged in the process?
Through you, Chair Hamilton, to Councillor Congo, I'll let Kevin Bradley take the question, then I'll supplement it if required.
Okay. Thank you.
Through you, Chair Hamilton. I may answer the question a little bit differently if I could. What's being proposed for that site is consistent with the waterfront strategic plan, both the 2015 plan and the current plan that committee has recommended tonight, and consistent with what we heard through the public consultation.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. And again, wonderful job on the master plan, and I appreciate the clarity on that. So that's great to know.
Thank you. And I just there's one final catch here in terms of another amendment in terms of paragraph number 4. I wonder, can I put that forward as chair? No. Just that paragraph 4 talks about locations other than South Shore Park. We want to change that language. Okay, so it's already captured. Wonderful. Ignore me. We'll carry on. Okay, so moving ahead to vote on the motion as presented with the three revisions to paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and addition of paragraph 5. All of those in favor, and it carries. Wonderful. Move us back now to agenda item number 6. Before I do so, I just know who's in the audience, and I just wonder, as we just finished that conversation and made a vote, I wonder if you have any comments or words you want to share with us since you're in attendance today. Not to put you on the spot, don't feel like you have to, but if there's anything you want to come up and say, you're welcome to. You can come to there's a podium right there if you.
Am I on? Yes. I do want to thank all of you for finally getting this going. I cannot tell you how much we appreciate that, especially the kids. Safety is a huge concern where we are right now, between the massive yachts, I'd like to call them, that are in the transient marina, and the other ones, the sea jets that come out. And to have a facility where we can actually work in and teach things and get things going. Thank you, finally, for doing this for us. Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just for some clarity, this is a committee meeting, so it needs to be ratified by council. That's just, as a process. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Yes, it's made the first hurdle and now we'll go to general committee and then finally to council as well. But I appreciate you being here tonight. So thank you for those words. Okay, I'll bring us back to our agenda then. We'll go back to item number 6, which is the advisory committee reports. We have 9 advisory committee reports to be received. 6.1 report of the Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee dated April 20th, 2023. 6.2 report of the Arts Advisory Committee dated April 25th, 2023. 6.3 report of the Communities in Bloom Committee dated May 2nd, 2023. 6.4 report of the Arts Advisory Committee dated May 23, 2023. 6.5 report of the Communities in Bloom Committee dated June 6, 2023. 6.6 report of the Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee dated June 8th. 6.7 report of the Communities in Bloom Committee dated July 4th. 6.8 report of the Communities in Bloom Committee dated September 5th. And finally, 6.9, the report of the Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee dated September 7th. I hope you have all read all of those reports in detail. I did. There was quite a few to get through, and I must say our committees are doing some excellent work. Can I have a member of committee place the reports on the floor to be received?
I'll put them on the floor.
Deputy Mayor Thompson, thank you. Are there any questions from members of the committee? One comment, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, in the June 8th report of the Active Transportation and Sustainability Advisory Committee, one of the updates that was given was from Kevin Rankin, Manager of Parks and Forestry, regarding the ecological offsetting. And I just want to tie that back into the rest of the meeting tonight, being that I believe there's a couple $100,000 that are sitting in an account now to be able to plant trees. And so it's all kind of coming together, and I just saw that in the notes and thought, hey, I'd bring it up because that's the decision we made back in January, February to be able to make that happen. And now we can actually put those funds to good use to improve people's lives.
Great. Thank you for pointing that out. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Any other questions or comments from members of council in attendance? All those in favor? And it is carried. There was one recommendation from the Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee report dated September 7th. It concerns the landfill bike division program. As members may recall, a motion regarding this topic was referred back to the Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee for further consideration. The motion that is before us this evening is a result of the committee's further consideration of the matter. So it reads, the recommendation reads, the landfill bike diversion pilot program. It states that staff in the Waste Management and Environmental Sustainability Department be directed to apply the learnings from the landfill bike diversion pilot program and formalize a program to which nonprofit organizations in the city of Barrie can enter into a relationship with the city to divert items, including but not limited to bicycles, as long as the items do not create landfill revenue lost as determined by staff, city staff. Does a member of committee wish to put the recommendation on the floor? Councillor Riepma. As this motion is on the floor, are there any questions from members of the committee? Mayor Nettle?
Yeah, I'd like to move an amendment that not just lost revenue, but also higher costs, higher expenses. In the sense that it's one thing not losing revenue, but if we create programs that take a whole bunch of more staff time that we're not accounting for inside of our budgeting, we're kind of leaving ourselves and staff in a rough place. So there's two sides to the ledger. They should both be covered. I'm not sure what the verbiage would be for that, Tara or Don.
Good. I think you can add some subtle wording there to capture the essence of that.
Through you, Councillor Hamilton as chair to Mayor Nuttall. I think the wording could be, but that do not create landfill revenue loss or result in increased expenditures associated with the landfill.
Thank you. What she said.
Yep, what she says. I've noted it. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Oh, and any other questions or comments from members in council in attendance? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Hamilton, and thank you for the amendment. So as the chair of that committee, just as a point of reference, was definitely part of the conversation. Staff present tonight did a great job of talking a bit about how we value things like scrap and where waste might actually cost us more to process. And so that is already, if I may say correctly, great discretion of staff and why we added discretion without getting into detail. But I think it's a helpful amendment for clarity. And just want to take a moment to really compliment staff because I believe it was their initiative that actually looked at the value of bicycle parts that started this pilot and diverting that. And that ties into our circular economy strategy. I think I'll also say thank you to Councillor Riepma for punting this back to committee because we were able to actually have quite good dialogue about where this pilot could be expanded to and much broader than bicycles. So not just seeing the pilot be something that is secured, but also allow staff to really look at opportunities for not-for-profits to take advantage of this. So I'm excited to hear about how this will move forward, but think it is quite an innovative and smart project that staff led on.
Any other questions or comments from members of council in attendance? Or go ahead. Riepma.
Just a comment following up on Councillor Congal's and the amendment. I think Mr. Mayor has spoken like a true banker. And I think that's the right thing to do. But I think that the bicycle pilot has been very successful. And I think that's something that, you know, that's just a great idea. And I'm sure that there are other ideas out there, whether it be toasters or something else. And I think this opens that up. And I think that we should really try to encourage that. So I'm very much in support.
With that, I think we can probably move to the vote, to vote on the motion as printed with the small revision in language as captured by Dawn to say result in increased expenditure. Do I need to read it out? You're both looking at me. Oh, and then the revision. Okay, so we'll vote on the amendment first. I don't know if I need to read it out again. You have it. So we'll just go ahead. All those in favor? And it carries. All right. And now we will vote on the main motion as printed with the amendment. All those in favor? And it carries. I will get used to this one day, hopefully soon. And that is that. Okay. So we have done item 7 already. We'll move on to item number 8, item for discussion, and there are none. So we will move right into adjournment. This concludes the Infrastructure and Community Investment Committee meeting. City Council meeting will begin at 7 p.m. The meeting is adjourned at 5:54.